Hello viewers and welcome to my new video. In today's video I wanted to talk to you about music venues. What happened recently, I was about to play this gig in Bradford and about 3 weeks before the actual gig the promoter messaged me saying that, you know what happened? The venue actually shut down completely. You know, the venue is no more, the business has packed it in, and you know, he managed to move it to a different venue anyway. The gig sort of eventually got cancelled, but that brought a lot of memories to me, so I thought I'd kind of share it with you because I've had a lot of observations on music venues over the years. I've been playing music for over 20 years, you know. Well, first in Poland, then in the UK, but I also sort of toured around Europe, so I've got quite a lot of experiences. It's kind of really interesting because since I ever started going to gigs, not even playing gigs as a musician, I've always, well, not always, but obviously initially I didn't, because when you kind of start anything new, it seems to you like, oh yeah, this thing is just here, you know, and it's probably always been here and it's probably always going to be here. But actually that's not quite correct. And actually what I've noticed is that since the very first time sort of I went to this club back in Krakow in Poland when I was a teenager, and the club was called Pod Przewiązką. They used to put punk gigs in there, and that club existed for a bit, but then that venue sort of stopped being the venue for gigs. And I remember that these gigs sort of moved to a different venue called Żelazna, which was kind of in a different part of town, but again, completely different club, also lasted for a few years, and then that stopped. And then there were like a few different venues, I think, across like in various locations in town. But I always, like that, at that point, so I began to kind of think, well, these venues seem to be like quite, you know, changing. Like every few years there seems to be like a change. Like one venue was there, then it changes to another venue and that kind of thing. But these gigs always seem to kind of have survived regardless of which venue they were sort of organized at. And of course it's very important for musicians for venues to exist, because, you know, this is our bread and butter. So if you tour or you want to go to play some gigs out there, you need venues, you know, you need those actual physical spaces. And there are some great venues out there, and there are some great venues that I've had a privilege to play in. There's some other stories that I've got, like even from Manchester, for example, where there was a venue called Moho Live once on Tip Street in Manchester. And actually I used to go there. I actually saw quite a few bands in there, mainly hardcore bands probably at the time. And on the other side of that venue, so like, if you know Manchester, then you will know what I'm talking about. Tip Street, on the other side was Oldham Street, and there was a barber shop, effectively, or hairdressers, if you like. And at one time that hairdressers went on fire, basically. That fire spread through basically inside, because it was all just a wall between the two places, and that fire spread into the venue, and the whole venue burned down basically, and that was the end of the gigs. So this is sometimes even those types of things happen, you know, where there was a venue for a few years, you know, there were regular gigs there, and then they stopped. And then there was another venue that I can think of, which was called Ducie Bridge. Okay, so this venue was like a pub, and then above, well, there was like a pub on the ground floor, and then on the first floor you had the venue. And actually we used to put gigs in there, and I used to go to some gigs there as well. And that was a really, really cool venue, you know, in a very good location in Manchester as well. And then what happened was, it turned out that the land where the pub sort of stood belonged, I think, to the bank, like Co-op Bank or something like that. And effectively they bought it out. They paid the landlord to sort of move out, and the pub sort of actually stood empty for quite a few years. There's actually a Manchester band called Revenge of the Psychotronic Man, that sort of made a song about this. I think it's all sort of about like venues shutting down and becoming car parks. I think because it was kind of interesting that there was like a big gap in time between that venue becoming empty and then nothing happening with that land for a long time, and I think there was just a car park sort of next to it and nothing else. I think they're doing something now. Actually, they've used it now, and I think they've probably demolished it actually by now. But there is effectively this change, and even in Manchester, you know, that I've noticed that there's been this change of venues, you know, like from one to another, from one to the next. Some of them shut down, some of them changed owners, then reopen again, and that kind of how it. That is kind of how it fluctuates. There's some new venues popping up, say, I don't know, Rebellion, for example, another Manchester venue which has been in existence for quite a while. I had the privilege to play in that venue as well, and yeah, that venue has been in place for a few years now, and it's quite a good thriving venue, I think. But you know, there are those instances that where they kind of make you think that something was there and it's no longer there, and it's kind of, it's thought-provoking. I think that's what I would say, that you know, like one thing ends and another thing begins. I mean, to be honest, I never lose faith completely. And from experience, like I said, I've noticed that there's always something new, even though one venue shuts down, another venue opens. Although I must say that it's never good. Well, never. That might be a bad statement, because you know, if you were a landlord and maybe you benefited financially from selling the venue, you know, to someone else, then that might be good for you, you know, but it might be bad for the music scene, you know, but personally for you that could be good. But on the other hand, if you basically lost your business because it wasn't profitable, there weren't enough people, say, coming to your pub or to your venue, buying drinks or coming to gigs and things like that, that could actually bring a venue down. It could bring a business down, which is why so many people have been saying that it's so important to sort of support the underground music or music in general, and actually frequent those gigs and make sure that people sort of support what they call your local scene. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, obviously you don't support, you don't spend money, you don't buy beer, you don't buy gig tickets, you know, sooner or later that venue will collapse because it will just not be profitable to run. So yeah, those are kind of my observations, but I do stay optimistic because, like I say, I've seen this so many times now, and I always see that there's always a new place. If one place shuts down, another place opens and takes its place. And I think as long as there is a scene of whatever type, I think those venues will be there, because the scene needs an outlet, you know, a scene needs a venue to play somewhere. Those are my observations. Please let me know in the comments what you think, what you've experienced maybe in your own town or city or your own scene. I would be really interested to read those comments, and leave this video a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel, as it really helps me grow it further and reach out to more people with my content. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.